everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Cubica AMF Tech Tip Podcast. This is a weekly podcast where we take you on a journey through the fascinating world of bowling technology and beyond. I am your host, Orly, and as always, I have a very special guest on today, and I'm going to attempt this name, but if I mess it up, you correct me. We have Lance Rasmussen. Is that close?
That's it.
All right. From CDE Software. So Lance, first off, thank you for joining the show. I appreciate you taking the time today.
Thanks for having me, Orly.
And before I even go on anymore, before I forget, because I don't want to forget, is Lance also joined us on the Seeds of Success podcast. So make sure you go over and check that episode out. He kind of let us know a little bit how the software can work in your center. If you're not using it, basically what it does, and gave us a lot of great information. So make sure you're going to listen to that show also. So first off, Lance, do you want to let everyone know, your title and what you do with CDE Software?
Absolutely. So, again, my name is Lance Rasmussen, and I'm CDE Software, and I'm the current president of the company. I've been around a couple years, coming up on 30, and I'm one of the developers as well of the software, and run the company and do a lot of help with support, particularly with the bowling centers. So a lot of bowling centers who call are pretty familiar with me in helping them out.
Okay. Well, I'm excited to have you on today. So I'm just going to dive right into it. I have some questions here for you that, that are being asked. So I'll let you answer them and hopefully we can help some people out. So first question for you is, does BLS make it easy to roll over leagues for the next season?
Absolutely. In one of the maintenance utilities, there is the ability to roll over a league to the new season. And to make it easy, you just simply go to that function. You, after you've opened up that league that's finished, and then you say restart the league for the new season. And there's a wizard that comes up that just asks questions of what's going to get carried forward. Some things like typically the ending average of a league for a bowler typically becomes the starting average or entering or book average for a bowler. So BLS carries that over. It can even do things like reordering teams based on what place they were in the season to be the new team numbers for the next year. Part of this feature also, which is great, is that BLS still is going to keep the old league for reference. It's not going to clear that data out. It's going to create a new league file. And then, of course, once that new league is put into place, you just simply make any rule changes that happened, change the starting date, number of weeks, lane assignment schedule, and adjust how many teams are in because maybe you expanded, or if need be, reduce in case it contracted.
Okay. And do you recommend building a league from scratch every 2 to 3 years versus reusing the same one indefinitely?
Absolutely. We found that while BLS can recycle each season, and we've actually had centers where it's been recycled for 10, 15 years or more. But we found that with changes to the data that BLS does every year, new features and other things, we find that the league really benefits from starting from scratch every 2 or 3 years, I would say. And it also, too, provides a great opportunity to maybe you need to weed out players who've maybe moved on to different leagues. They've moved out of the area, no longer bowling that league. So it kind of helps keep the data concise, condensed, and makes it nimbler to work with. Okay.
And how about creating or storing league backups?
Very important. Can't stress how important it is. We always tell people, be prepared to manually type in scores if you don't back up your data. As much as computers being a wonderful thing, anything can happen at any time. You can literally go out and buy a brand new computer and a week later it fails. Then again, a computer that you've had for 20 years could be ticking away. We found that Murphy, who's a bowler, which nobody believes me, he has a wonderful sense of humor. And I strongly, he knows when to strike, which is most often than not 2 or 3, 4 weeks before the league ends is when something happens to the computer. BLS also has a function that we make it easy to remember to back up the league. And it takes all the data files that are in the league and condenses them to a single file. That can be stored on a flash drive. So in case the computer does have something, the hard drive fails, the computer goes, or even if you're migrating to a new computer, it's a great way to move that backup back to BLS. One note too that we found, in a center, obviously it's never a bad idea to have too many fire extinguishers in the building as possible.
Yeah.
It just, you can't have too many. So it's the same thing with backups. Myself, I kind of like to have two flash drives. One I'll have odd written on, the other even. And then if it's an odd week of the league, I'll stick in the odd stick and back up to that. And if it's an even week, I'll put in the even stick and back up to that. But critical is never keep these flash drives plugged into the computer after you're done backing up to it. I tell the horror story a lot where we had a customer who got hit by lightning many years ago, and the lightning traveled down, trashed a few computers, including the BLS computer, with a really bad surge, fried the computer. Unfortunately, the flash drive with all the backups was plugged into the computer, and that flash drive also was destroyed.
Wow.
So really bad. And another probably a really good tip too with backups is using the leaguesecretary.com service, which is free. Not only bowlers can see their standings and everything else like that, it also sends a backup of the league to the cloud so that in case of emergency with this extra fire extinguisher, you can actually go online, log into your account, retrieve the backup from their service, restore it. And at worst, maybe you have to retype in a week's worth of scores, but that's certainly better when it's week 25 out of 32 when this happens. So, yeah, definitely backing up is very key.
Yeah, that's important with everything. You know, sometimes I'll be talking with a friend or something like, what if your phone messes up? Oh, it's okay. I have it on my computer. But then what if your computer messes up? I don't know. You know what I mean? It's not like, you know, it's a big deal with pictures these days. You know, everybody's like, oh, I don't save pictures anymore because they're just always on my phone. But I'm like, well, what happens when you buy a new phone? Then you kind of have to transform. And then before you know it, you kind of forget about those old pictures anyway. So it's like, but yeah, no, it's always safe to back up. So, so going on with this, what league aspects are handled by BLS and which are handled by Concur?
Well, BLS is itself where the league is created, configured. It's got all the rules, the teams. It's the engine that keeps the scores and statistics. It manages the league itself. Where the front desk and Concur, for example, come into play is where bowlers show up to bowl. BLS does know who bowls each week and the schedule of who plays who on what lanes, as well as the things such as bowlers and team handicaps. Concur doesn't know about this. So BLS exports this set of instructions to Concur to tell everything about that league that it needs. And then from Concur, you would then go into the league screen, find that league, set up any additional preferences that the front desk may offer you, such as exciters and practice time and things like that. And then the front desk person can floor the league for practice so that when the bowlers walk in, boom, they just look for their name on a lane and they know where to bowl. From there, Concur is going to, and the lane computers itself are going to keep track of the bowling during the night. And then it'll deal with substitutions. You have to change around the lineup, the order, deal with vacancies. Concur actually handles the lane movement. BLS has a feature where you could essentially have 2 weeks of league compressed as one. So Conquer knows going, okay, these two games have bowled. We need to move this team over to lane 7 to bowl the next two games. So that magic all happens on Conquer and the lane computer's end. And then once that's done, Conquer takes all those scores that have been bowled after it's tracked. It records those for BLS so that BLS can then bring them in, which is what we call an import process. And BLS will look at those scores, type them in for you to make your life much easier. And then it does bring up a log in case you have certain situations that you may need to manually get involved with. Most commonly is right at practice time, somebody needed a sub. A person was available to substitute that has never bowled that particular league before. So at the lanes, it's not a problem to put that person down. But when the scores come back from Conquer, BLS is going to say, I really don't know who John Doe is, but I do know that he bowled a 100, a 200, and a 250 score. So at that point, that the league processor can create a new bowler of John Doe, put him on that particular team, and type in those scores. Now, from that point forward, should this bowler ever substitute again, BLS knows about it, and it's easy peasy.
All right, Lance. Well, I appreciate you taking the time and sharing that information. You know, it's all great knowledge. I use the word knowledge here all the time, and I say that. And I tell everybody that I use that word a lot because I feel the people that I bring on have so much knowledge in the subject that they're talking about. And everyone, I am going to give you a little heads up. I'm going to have Lance back on the show, so stay tuned for that one. And we're going to be talking more about, some common league issues that you might have and how you can fix those. Lance is going to go over that with us. So again, if you're new to the show, make sure you're sharing with friends and you're listening to past shows. And again, Lance, thank you for taking the time to come on the show.
Thanks for having me.
And we will talk to everyone soon.